Will you be able to let go? It keeps coming back to that question. And biblically, scripturally, it keeps going back to the story of the rich young man who desired to know what he needed to do to be perfect. And of everything that Yahushua listed, the young man was able to say, check, I've done that, I'm doing that, I'm good on those particular areas. And then Yahushua was like, okay, in that case, sell all you have, give the money to the poor, and follow me. And that was the thing that tripped that young boy up. And I'm seeing that is the thing I believe that's going to trip many people up in this country, the United States, and perhaps around the world. Because I'm seeing a lot of people still locked in patterns of consumerism, still locked in imagery, what seems to be an image of success. Middle America, which has slowly become almost non-existent, versus lower class America. And lower class does not necessarily mean lower standards. We're just talking about economic classes, because I know several folks who come from lower economic classes but have some of the highest moral standards and high regard for other people and high regard for YAHUAH than some of these folks who have big time money, who have no struggles financially. So we're just talking about economic standards right now, economic classes. So the middle classes, the quote unquote upper classes, I'm seeing a lot of them as possibly the top prospects for failing the test of selling what they have, giving the money to the poor to balance everybody else out, and following Yahushua and Yahuwah. I don't see a lot of that happening. And technically I think we should, because as I'm sitting where I'm sitting right now in the middle of downtown LA, I'm seeing a lot of these condos and high-rise apartments that were full when I first went into my lease. I'm seeing a lot of these buildings, I'm talking about very empty. Very empty. All these glass buildings, very empty. Number one, the rent has always been a bit higher here than it should be, but it's because of the label, the association of Los Angeles and living downtown Los Angeles, or living in Culver City, or living out wherever, North Hollywood, West Hollywood, all of those labels, just like with Chicago, or I stay in the Gold Coast, that type of stuff. It's like wonderful for you, but okay, so what? At the end of the day, you still got to survive, you still got to breathe, you still got to have peace of mind. So why is it that you're out here driving a top-of-the-line Mercedes-Benz, but having to drive Uber and DoorDash to pay for that mug? If you can make it make sense in practical terms and even spiritual terms, then help a brother out. Explain it to me so that I can get it. But I know what it is. It's a trap of the enemy. It's a trap of the enemy to shape individuals' minds toward thinking that things, possessions, are indications of success and notoriety, when indeed those very possessions oftentimes are that person's jail cell. Those things are that person's imprisonment. They are imprisoned by those very things. And Yahushua, through Yahuwah, is giving us the opportunity to sell what we have, share the bounty with others so that they are blessed and so that we also are blessed. Why? Because Luke 6:38 tells us, give and it shall be given unto you. How much? Good measure, pressed together, shaken down, pressed together, and running over shall men give unto your bosom. For the measure that you give is the measure that you will receive. And that's not just scripture, that's actual sound practical advice from the mouth of the Kodesh one. Some of us, like myself, have practiced that, and it works. It's real. When you give from your heart, in Yahushua's name, toward those things and those ones that the Ruach HaKodesh gives you to give toward, you end up big time Baruch. Blessed that is. You end up big time Baruch. And you don't have to hustle. You don't have to bustle. You don't have to try to go out and manipulate anybody, get anybody to feel sorry for you. None of that, none of that, none of that, none of that. You know, walking around with your head down, yeah, well, I gave my last $10 to Lil John and I don't know what I'm going to do. None of that. Nah, you give it and the Most High turns that stuff around at some point and it comes back in a big way. And he'll let you know it's because you were obedient to what I told you at this point or at that point that I'm blessing you now. It works. But I'm seeing a lot of people still not latched on to this. You all, I'm raising the point of this right now because it connects to what we're seeing at the end. I'm walking down the street having done some work today, and there was a gentleman who looks a bit disheveled. Some people might say he was homeless. I don't know if the man has a home or not, but he looked a little disheveled. And he was standing out on the street corner. And he looks like he was somebody who might have been making the announcement to people who would listen to the announcement. And the announcement was this. As I approached him, he said, "Keep your eyes open, brother. He's coming. Keep your eyes open. He's coming." And I looked at him and I nodded my head and I took a few steps forward. But then it's like the Ruach HaKodesh, and I hope that was the Ruach HaKodesh, turned me around and I took 2 steps back toward that brother and I said, "Keep your eyes open to the east." I was like, that's where the sign's coming from. Keep your eyes to the east. And he looked at me and he blinked a few times and his head nodded like in that agreement, that slow agreement. That man knew what was up. And I wonder how many other people are dismissing that man, not realizing what's really happening around them. It's chaotic right now. I'm seeing cars almost careening into one another and nobody's saying I'm sorry. People almost careening into other people with these cars. Nobody's saying I'm sorry. I'm seeing impatience on a high level among people. I'm seeing spiritual, how do I want to say this? Let's call it demonic attacks. Very empty vessels that have been taken over by demons out here on these streets. I mean, y'all, I'm going to just go ahead. I'm not going to be cute and nice about it. When you've got what looks like to be a human being drinking from a cup that's been out here on the streets for hours, days, months, whatever, and what's inside that cup looks like urine, and yes, I said urine. It looks like urine and cigarette butts and maybe bird poop and other things, and that thing that looks like a human being picks up that cup and starts drinking from it. Y'all, you know that that's demonic. You know that that's not standard human operation. That's not a spirit of cleanliness and righteousness within that vessel. And that same vessel, you observe going to the trash can and eating rotted food, you know, and that type of stuff. And then they look at you without really saying anything and open up their hands as though, hey, you want to give me something? Or from that, they come up to you and what they mutter is, do you have any crystal? Crystal meaning crystal meth. Because that's the main demon that I see infiltrating a lot of these vessels out here, is that drug demon. And so it has them doing a whole lot of stuff. And so we're seeing a lot of this. And some of those very drug demons get behind the wheels of these cars, falling asleep at the wheel, crashing into people, and getting out, wondering what's going on, or from that driving away as though nothing happened. We're seeing a lot of this. We're seeing a lot of this. We're seeing a lot of this. And then you've got the people who seem to have some sense or pretend to have some sense, just walking by these demonic vessels and acting as though they're not there. You know, like there's nothing wrong on the streets of LA. Like everything is just pure, clean, copacetic, as we used to say. Knowing full well it's not. When you've got to step over these folks because they're laying in the middle of the street butt naked, because the street is literally their bed. I am not exaggerating. The streets and the sidewalks are literally their beds, and they use the street curb as their pillow. And they're laying out in that, and their feces, their poop, you've got to walk past and step over, and they urinate, and sometimes they whip it out right in front of you just to urinate, ladies squatting and whatever, or just standing up, whatever. Y'all, this is what's going on, and I know it's not just here in LA. Because in my most recent travels, when I was out in Oklahoma City, I was shocked to see the homelessness and the what I call the deprivation of what's going on out in Oklahoma City. And then I found out that there's a big they've got a lot of dispensaries out there now, the marijuana dispensaries and all of that type of stuff. That's become big on their economy. They have turned their hotels into the new apartments. So you can go out there and rent a hotel by the month easily. It's not even a special deal. It's just, hey, $1,200 a month. But you handle your own sheets and linens and all that. But yeah, you've got a place with a little kitchenette. We don't charge taxes. We don't do background checks. And how do I know? It's because when I was out there doing the project that I was doing, I had to stay at an extended stay. And I found a lot of people, y'all, who are using the hotel as their apartments. And that's just kind of commonplace out there. And I found that very interesting. I was like, okay, that's the way their economy is keeping up. But it's also regarded as a solution for people who cannot get adequate housing through the normal credit checks and what have you. So they pay week to week, bi-weekly, or month to month at these extended places, and they bypass, like I said, the background checks and all that stuff by doing so. Now, some people can argue, well, you've got criminals in there. Well, perhaps. But what is a criminal? A criminal is anybody who has committed a crime based on the established laws. So that means that somebody who is evading their taxes is a criminal, because technically by law, that's a crime. So that's a criminal. It does not mean that this person is a rapist or is a thief or is a pedophile or is a drug dealer, that type of stuff. So, we use all these terms, but we need to qualify these terms when we're using them so that people who might have some sense can understand. Now, we know there's just some who won't get it. But anyway, I'm seeing that this is what's happening right now. And I just have this sneaky suspicion that when all the stuff hits the fan, that a lot of these hotels and homeless shelters and people that are out on the streets and so forth, that's going to be some of the first places that the capital G-O-V'-T, yes, I said the capital G-O-V'-T hits up to try to corral people and round up who they want to try to imprison and enslave. They're going to go where they can find the most bodies. And I just got a feeling that that's probably what they're going to end up doing. It just seems that way. But I'm once again seeing that a lot of this sense of notoriety and fame and fortune and wealth in LA in particular, that the charade is up. These folks can't afford this stuff. They are leaving these high-rise apartments big time. Now, you still got a few of them out here trying to fake it. They walk around with their heads up, trying to wear this type of outfit and that type of bag, whatever. But it's like, okay, you're doing all that, but you're going down there to the food bank to get food in your cupboards. Stop playing. Stop playing. Nothing wrong with the food bank. Go get what you got to get if you got to get it. You know what I'm saying? But why play all these games? Why you going down trying to have this big Mercedes and Jaguar, whatever, and again, you got to do DoorDash just to pay for it on top of your normal job. So, you all, the world is really tripped out right now, and I don't know how many people, again, are willing to let go of the facades. You've got to let go of the facades if you're going to make it. You've got to strip the weight if you're going to get light in order to fly. You can't go high with all that weight on you. And might as well be honest about what's happening. You might as well be honest about who you are. You might as well be honest about who the Creator is, who YAHUAH is. And you might as well get on the side of righteousness. Because the sooner you do that, the better things will be for you. And that's for all of us. So y'all, I'm closing with this. Let go of what YAHUAH tells you to let go of. That includes people, places, things, and ideas, even spirits. Let go of what he tells you to let go of. And then assume, that is, embrace whatever he tells you to embrace in the form of people, places, things, ideas. Okay? So if that means that you got to move, you got to move. If that means you need to stay, you got to stay. Just be obedient to the Ruach, because the Ruach of the Most High, the HaKodesh, because in so doing, your protection and your peace and all your provisions will be right there. Right there. Why? Because he promised us that he will never, ever leave us nor forsake us. And you've got to practice it to know that it's true. If you don't practice it, you won't believe him. You got to put him to the test. And you got to know that he is real and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. All right? Hallelujah. In Yahushua's name, so be it and so it is. Shalom.